Superb.
It was the early 90s, and we were screaming it in the streets, just like that kid in the infamous Mortal Monday commercial back in '93. Nothing could prepare us for what was about to come. Our code-addled minds couldn't handle the weight any longer. We were ready for Mortal Kombat 2. How would it stack up? Could it stack up? Let's find out on today's edition of The Good, The Bad, and The Buggy. Mortal Kombat 2 for the arcade, the Sega Genesis, and the Super Nintendo. Mortal Kombat 2 made its debut in arcades on November 30th, 1993, only 13 months after the first MK hit arcades back in October 1992. This is kind of amazing to think about in retrospect. As a kid, the gap between those games felt enormous. But as an adult, we all know the passage of time is fast and smooth. The early 90s truly were the golden era with these arcade smash hits coming to home consoles, and MK2 was no exception. A full year later, in September 1994, MK2 was released for the home consoles in the same way the original Mortal Kombat was in September 1993. I absolutely remember my very first MK2 memory, and it also happens to be my very first MK memory ever. I grew up in the small Boston suburb of Peabody, and wouldn't you know it, Giovanni's Roast Beef and Pizza just so happened to have an MK2 arcade cabinet in the lobby during the summer of 1994. The second I laid my eyes on that cabinet art with Raiden summoning lightning from the heavens, I was sold. I begged my mother for 50 cents so I could play this game. Now, I don't remember exactly who I picked, but I do remember that my first opponent was Jax, and it was on the Deadpool stage. And he absolutely destroyed me. After the second round was over, he threw me into the acid waiting in the background, sending my skeleton to the surface like yesterday's news. I also vividly remember having nightmares about this scene for a bit after first playing MK2. That's how big of an impact this game had on my psyche while growing up. I remember this game being rented out 100% of the time at all 3 local video game stores I used to frequent as a kid. This game truly was on fire. You could find the first and third MK, but never the second one. I remember pestering my buddy and neighbor to borrow his Genesis copy simply because I couldn't find it anywhere. I even remember getting the first and third games for the Genesis for Christmas '95. You still couldn't find copies of MK2 on the Genesis to purchase, let alone rent, even a full year later. I remember eventually getting a copy of MK2 for the Sega Saturn and really enjoying it. Yes, there were load times, but the sound effects and the visuals were awesome and a lot closer to the arcade than the Genesis and Super Nintendo versions. Speaking of the Super Nintendo and the Genesis versions, how do they stack up? Let's take a look. The Good. The character roster. Alright, so this is a classic roster right here. Luckily, they all make it to the home versions of the game as well. There are 12 playable characters in MK2. We have
Liu Kang.
The champion of the first Mortal Kombat returns, after finding his home and temple in ruins at the hands of Shao Kahn's invading hordes.
Kung Lao.
Member of the White Lotus Society and close friends with Liu Kang, joining in the fight to protect Earth from Khan in the second tournament.
Johnny Cage.
The celluloid superstar returns after narrowly escaping Shang Tsung's island as it collapsed after the first tournament.
Reptile.
Shang Tsung's personal assassin and bodyguard, making his debut in MK1 as the only secret character. He's now fully playable as his own character, complete with his own special moves and finishers.
Sub-Zero.
The younger brother of the original Sub-Zero returns after his brother was murdered at the hands of Scorpion during the first tournament.
Shang Tsung.
The elderly sorcerer has his youth restored by Shao Kahn as a condition for luring the Earthrealm warriors into the Outworld for another tournament.
Kitano.
Daughter of Shao Kahn, torn between assisting Earthrealm and keeping her evil twin sister off her back.
Jax.
Earthrealm Special Forces Major Jackson Briggs is here to rescue Sonya, whom chased Kano into the Outworld at the conclusion of the first tournament. You can see them both making brief cameos here in the Khan's arena stage.
Melina.
Kitana's evil twin sister, created using her own DNA via Shang Tsung's black magic. She serves Khan and might actually be the best technical character in the game. More on that later.
Baraka.
The Tarkatan warlord is leader of Khan's army raids, the same ones that stormed Liu Kang's temple after the first tournament concluded.
Scorpion.
The Hellspawn Spectre returns for the second tournament. Whose side is he on? What are his personal goals? How the hell is there another Sub-Zero?
Raiden.
The Thunder God returns once again in human form to assist the humans in protecting Earthrealm from Khan's outworld forces.
Kintaro.
Shao Kahn's personal bodyguard, a half-human, half-tiger. Shao Kahn, the true Emperor of Outworld and Shang Tsung's boss. There are also 3 secret characters which aren't playable in any version of Mortal Kombat 2. But don't worry, we'll get to them shortly. The finishing moves. Now, there are a plethora of finishing moves in MK2. The original Mortal Kombat featured 1 fatality per character and 1 stage fatality, the pit. MK2 really cranks up the content dial here, giving each of the 12 characters 2 fatalities, as well as a babality and a friendship. There are also 3 separate stage fatalities, which all 12 characters can execute. This was absolutely mind-boggling back in 93 and 94. It may seem tame now, but back in the day, this was an insane amount of content being given to players, and all but guaranteed that we'd keep slamming those quarters into the machines until the cows came home. This was also the stuff of magazine and early internet legend, with players clamoring to find the next code or secret for the game. Speaking of which, the secrets. If there's one thing early Mortal Kombat is known for outside of its infamous fatalities and finishers, it's its ability to utilize secret codes in a variety of ways. Through this, players unlock secret characters, menus, and games, etc. Speaking of secrets, let's take a look at those 3 secret characters. Noob Saibot. What happens when you take co-creators Ed Boon and John Tobias, take their last names, and reverse them? You get Noob Saibot. The all-black Shadow Ninja can only be reached by playing 50 matches on the Super Nintendo or 25 matches on the Genesis. Smoke. Smoke is the Grey Ninja, with smoke billowing off of him. Not much is known about his story at this time, but we do know how to find him. On the Portal stage, on rare occasions after you perform an uppercut, the legendary Dan Forden will appear shouting his infamous "Press down plus start on your controller." If done correctly, you'll be teleported to Goro's lair to face Smoke. Good luck. Jade. Jade is the green female ninja, and she's the one hiding inside that pesky question mark icon on the battle plan screen. To reach Jade, you need to win a round on the battle before the question mark icon, using only the low kick button. This makes Jade the easiest of the 3 secret characters to reach, but she's by no means the easiest to fight. She's twice as fast as the other characters, and can throw you from ridiculous distances. The bad. The AI. Okay, so it's no secret, this game has some of the cheapest, most BS AI ever to this day. The game will throw you, reverse your moves, and counter your attacks with absolute precision. This is because the game utilizes input reading, which is exactly what it sounds like. The game takes your inputs and counters them. There are a few ways to counter this, however. The problem here is that it reduces the game to a jump kick fest. Not fun at home, but when you're pumping quarters into a machine at the arcade, sometimes you may get desperate. Hey, I don't blame you. The secret characters. So we've previously mentioned how to find Smoke, Noob, and Jade. That's all fine and dandy, but the real problem is these characters are hard with a capital H. As challenging as the standard ladder can be, these three crank it up to 11 in terms of speed and countering ability. The Buggy. This one's easy to perform. It's known as the Sub-Zero double fatality glitch. In this game, Sub-Zero has a unique fatality that is composed of two separate parts. First part is the deep freeze, and the second part is the shatter. There happens to be a gap of time between the two parts here, whereby you can perform other fatalities and finishers, and trigger all sorts of glitches. The easiest one to do is the deep freeze into the Deadpool fatality. Fergality. Exclusive to the Sega Genesis version is the Fergality. I remember seeing this in a magazine as a kid and thinking this had to be another April Fool's joke, just like the Polar Bear Sub-Zero Animality pictures. Nope, this one's actually real, and this is how you do it. First, you need to activate the Test Modes menu. This one's burned into my brain. Set the cursor to Done and press left down left, right down right, left left, right right. The new menu will appear. Activate the Ooh Nasty setting. Next, choose Raiden and be on the Armory stage. Win 2 rounds, and for your finishing move, simply press back, 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 block at any distance. You'll then perform the Fergality, an homage to one of the programmers at Acclaim at the time. I remember seeing this as a kid and being blown away that they included it. In conclusion, Mortal Kombat 2 is absolutely worth the praise it receives, not only as a legendary arcade title from the early 1990s, but as an MK entry overall. A darker, more brooding atmosphere is provided in the second entry, and fans ate it up. To this day, many insist that this was the peak of the series, and story-wise, they very well may be right. And while we all know that Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 is my personal favorite, I can't deny that I played Mortal Kombat 2 over and over again, all year long, to this very day. Yes, the AI is some of the cheapest you'll ever come across in any game, ever. Yes, some of the sprites look a little awkward, and there's some glitching that takes place. And yes, you can jump kick your way to victory both against the CPU and a friendly second player opponent. None of this stops the game from being a blast to play, however. And you know what? That's what matters most in the long run, and that's what makes Mortal Kombat 2 a timeless classic. This is Jason from the Gaming Manual. Thank you for your time, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
Fight!